My guests today are a husband and wife ministry team that are doing some wonderful things for the kingdom of God. If you've watched our show the last 2 days, you'll recognize them as each appeared separately to talk about their individual books and ministry. We found that 2 programs just weren't enough to cover all their amazing work. So today we brought them together to share more with us. Please welcome Bryan and Chelsea Perry-Citron. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Well, we got to hear a little bit about each of your individual ministries, and you guys are a ministry team. Before we get into what you guys are doing together, tell us how you guys got together.
And so I wrote a book. And as I was writing my first book, Wild Expectance, which I talked to you about, I actually know that women read books more than men, and I was doing some market research, so I reached out to my cousin's close friend, and I didn't know when I reached out to her to ask her if it had female appeal, that as she read it, that we'd fall in love.
Wow, that's awesome. So how'd that go for you?
It was pretty amazing. So we had met briefly and didn't really think much of it. It wasn't that kind of vibe. And then when he asked me to read the book, I just saw a totally different side of him, and I thought it was really awesome. But something that I just want to say is we both had to really wait a long time for each other, and it's amazing how when you're waiting for something, sometimes it can feel really daunting and like almost impossible, but we both just knew that the other one was out there. We just didn't know who it was. And so I just want to encourage whoever is out there that if you're waiting for something, it could very well be that it just needs to be at the right time. And for us, the waiting was really important to get us both prepared for each other and what we're doing.
Wow, that's good. And that's a good word for all sorts of situations.
Yeah.
Wait on God's timing, not try and force doors open when God isn't opening the doors.
And don't freak out.
Yeah,
don't freak out. It's coming. It's on the way, you know?
Yeah, well, that's some good advice. So anybody out there looking for someone, just write a book, and that'll allow you to express yourself, and somebody will see you for everything you really are. But share with us a little bit about where you're at in your ministry now together.
Sure, and so it's really exciting. We're getting ready to take our first crusade, gospel crusade, to Ethiopia, actually coming up in mid-February. And it's exciting because both of us have a heart for the ministry. You know, I've been to Haiti 28 times, been to Vietnam 6 times. My wife, she's been on the mission field more than I've been on the mission field. She's been to Africa. I'm doing gospel festivals, and now we're doing this huge gospel festival. And on the low end, they're expecting 15,000 people, but yet on the high end, 50,000 people. We're going to be preaching the gospel to these people, some of which have never heard the gospel before. We're going to be praying for people, putting on a pastor's conference, and providing discipleship material for them so those who do get saved are able to go ahead and get discipled and plugged into local churches.
Well, that's amazing. You mentioned just the sheer number of people that come to these events, and that's amazing by itself. I've had the chance to minister overseas, and to me, it's just an amazing opportunity. I think the gospel's received in so much of a different way than it is here in the U.S. You both have been involved in overseas ministry. Chelsea, I'll ask you first. Share with us a little bit about your experience in that area of ministry.
Well, my family, I come from a pastor's family, and we have a ministry over in Kosovo, and that has been formative for me, just going back with the same people for years and years, and now decades. And it's incredible to see how much people blossom and change when they're in a really wonderful environment. And a lot of them have been through trauma. I mean, we've all been through trauma, but it's a different kind of trauma, what they had been through. And so that was very, very formative for me, seeing how small the world is. You can get anywhere in 2 days, like maybe 3, but pretty much, like, it is crazy how really small the world is. So if your viewers are thinking about going somewhere and seeing if they could lend a helping hand, there's so many ways. You could, contribute to an orphanage. You could rebuild a place that they need, like a hospital, and there's practical ways, and then just being there with kids, and it truly is life-changing.
Wow, that's good. I love that you said that, because I think so often we can think, well, I'd love to do something overseas. I see the need.
It's overwhelming.
But yeah, it's so far away, and it is. Some places are difficult to get to, but if you really set out to do it, it's not as bad as sometimes we make ourselves think. So thank you for sharing that. And Bryan, just tell us a little bit about, again, the ministry you've seen in the past and how you expect to see lives blessed as you go to Ethiopia.
Sure. I mean, it's the joy of people in some of these third world nations. Like I know here in the United States, we can be discouraged about things that really don't matter. But you see people that live in a one-room hut, or maybe it's a family of 7, and it's just like a single mother, and they're just so like, from an outside perspective, it seems like there's such despair, but yet they're so happy, and it's because the joy that Jesus has brought to them. And there's so many people, like in Ethiopia, that need that joy, that it seems like it's hopeless. But yet because we're going there, we're bringing hope to such a dire situation. It's really encouraging because it's like, I can't do it. I don't have the means. I don't have the ability. I don't have the resources to help all these people. But yet if I share my faith and I share the gospel, God can move in their heart and God can provide for their needs. We don't have to provide for their needs. We just have to be obedient and be the mouthpiece that God's calling us to be. And from there, God can speak to their hearts and guide them and help them, give them peace and give them a future and give them hope.
That's good. Now, Chelsea, you said that the trauma, we all deal with trauma, but it's a different kind. And I think as you talk about that, we all have needs, but we see a different kind of needs. And I think in the U.S., we're so quick, we have access to doctors, healthcare systems, we have access to all these resources that even though we may find ourselves in need, we don't put God as our source. And to me, that's the difference. Not that people don't find themselves in need, not that people don't find themselves in trouble, in problems to where God could help them, but he's kind of further on down the list of all these other things we put first. And so what would you say to encourage someone today? Maybe they're going through something, maybe they need God, but they don't even realize they need God because they're looking to all these other sources first.
I would just say there's always hope. There's always hope. And if you could take one step forward, one meaningful step forward towards your faith today, if that is just asking God, saying a simple prayer, if you're there, will you reveal yourself to me? Just real and raw from your heart. Prayer is just talking to him. And as we just talk to him, he listens to us and he answers us. And also you find a good local church that you could be a part of and get plugged into a community. And that's life-changing. That really is. When you get rooted and grounded, what that means is, if you don't even know what those words mean, when you get around other people who are into the same thing as you are, it's an amazing motivator. It's like being in shape. You want to get in shape and you'd start talking around these people that are like, everybody's working out and fitness is a focus. Then it's so much easier to be fit, right? And I feel like in our relationship with God, despair and all those things can just try to infringe on our life, but there is always hope. And there are other people out there that are needing you and needing you to get into your place of hope.
Wow, that's good. Well, Bryan and Chelsea, thank you so much for what you're doing. And for those that want to find out more, especially about this soon upcoming trip to Ethiopia, more about your ministry, how can they do that?
So if you go to thecitrons.com, you can go there and learn more about our upcoming trip as well as invest in this trip. We need prayer partners. Prayers change situations, but also we need people to practically invest in this event so then we can have the resources necessary to give out discipleship material, to put together the stage and everything, all the practicality of us putting together this huge feat.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today.